Our last preview, we're going to talk about the marquee game. Everyone's talking about Texas at Alabama. This line has been moving like bonkerishly since the offseason. It was like 10 point, 11 point. Then it was like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. It came all the way down to 6.5, I think. Now it's at back. It was 7 when it opened this week. It's at back to 7.5. It's bet up. I think there were some people who watched the Texas Rice game and maybe had some questions about their offensive line, and maybe some questions like, "Hey, Quinn Ewers get these receivers the ball, right? They have an insane receiving core, probably the best in the country. It's loaded. Can you get those guys the ball? It's the question." And they didn't necessarily run the ball all that well against Rice either, which has been kind of a staple there, especially with Bijan all these last couple of years. But I mean, Bijan didn't even run the ball all that well against Alabama last year, right? So the difference between this year and last year, right? Alabama does not have Bryce Young, but also Alabama gets him at home with an offensive line that is pretty maulish. And Jaden Milroe looked good against Middle Tennessee State. Granted, it's Middle Tennessee State, but Jaden Milroe threw the ball well.
He did. And I think people talk about, Middle Tennessee State being a pretty good group of 5 team. And it's not like they beat up on some FCS school or like, I'm sorry, but New Mexico State, the past couple of years. But I do think if you're Alabama and you're playing just about any group of 5 team, like the talent gap difference, it's all the same, to be honest to them. I think the level of difficulty for Jalen Monroe, I know he had that one nice play, but in general, I think was not that hard. I think he'll be tested this year. I think Texas defensively, I think this is their key to the game. I think they have to be able to stop the run. Their D line, we like a lot. I like a lot. I know, and obviously Bama's O line. I'm high on. The question I want to see is I'm going to give you an answer here or a question here, and maybe it was a better question, a week ago or even like 6 months ago in the spring, but if I were to give you a line of how many quarterbacks we will see non-injury related, it's 2.5. What would you take?
You said non-quarterback related injuries?
Yeah. So how many quarterbacks do we see not because of injuries? So she can't. So there's 9, but like someone gets pulled. Like someone gets pulled, or like, hey, Jalen Monroe's terrible. Let's throw on Tyler Buckner or just Ty Simpson or even Malik Murphy if you're Texas. Like, how many quarterbacks are we going to see take meaningful snaps?
Before the season, I would have said 3 would take meaningful snaps, right? For a different reason. I think that number could go up. I think there's a chance. I don't know. I think they really believe in Quinn Ewers. They could throw in Malik Murphy if things are really going bad. But I do think there's still a chance that if Alabama is not finding a way to win this game, I don't think he's won the battle by any means. I mean, he's won the battle for now, right? Jim Milroe. But there's a chance that if things go sideways, which it could, this Texas defense is not bad at all. Things could go sideways, especially at home. Like, they're going to be preparing those backup quarterbacks for sure. And I don't know what it's on their depth chart. Officially, it says my gut instinct tells me that we would actually see Tyler Buckner first before we saw Ty Simpson, just because of Tommy Rees' familiarity. I don't know. I haven't looked at the depth chart. That's just my gut. So I don't know. Don't quote me on that at all. It might not happen. It might not even matter, right? But I don't know. What have you heard about that depth chart situation? Is Ty Simpson for sure too?
I've heard that Buckner made some moves for sure. I think it'll depend. I think it'll depend on game situation. Like if they're really struggling, maybe you do a spark plug in Ty Simpson's. I think if Milroe gets hurt and you're up 10 points, you probably throw in Buckner because you believe you can manage the game maybe a little bit better than Ty Simpson. But yeah, aside from the quarterbacks, core versus secondary, sorry, versus the secondary of Alabama. Texas's receiving core is elite, top to bottom receiver, multiple running backs, tight ends, and obviously Quinn Ewers to get the ball to him. And I don't even think it matters how good Bama's defense is. I think if Texas and Sark and Quinn Ewers especially decides that they want to just ball out. We saw what Ohio State did to Georgia last year. And I'm not comparing Quinn Ewers to CJ Stroud. I'm not comparing Xavier Worthy to Marvin Harrison. But in terms of talent-wise, like that team is damn good receiving-wise. And obviously we saw how good Georgia's defense was, and they got shredded. Right. So I think if Texas can really show up and get Bama into a shootout, that's going to change the game. Now, if they struggle early and it's in the like last year, if you would have told me Texas only scored 17 points, I would have said, oh, they got blown out. But they were in a close game. This year, I think with the way Alabama can really lean on you in terms of, finishing drives and kind of putting the game away with their run game. I think this game needs to hit the over if you're Texas and you want to win this game. Over's at 54, by the way. So you got to be in around the 30s if you're Texas. I want to feel good about getting a win.
Yeah, I think if this is a shootout, I think Texas can win straight up. For my pick though, I will. It comes down for me is if you were to ask me this a couple weeks ago, I think I would have taken Texas for sure plus 7.5. And I hate being overreactionary to week one, but the offensive line. It was week one, but it didn't look good enough for me to take them plus 7.5 against Bama when Bama is better at literally every single position except quarterback and wide receiver. That's it. Alabama's better in every single spot, maybe tight end.
You think tackle? Offensive tackle with Caden Proctor and no, but I'm getting nitpicky anyways. But
I'm saying like the offensive line unit as a whole. I'm saying Bama's is better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I mean the difference, another difference too is Steve Sarkisian, right, versus Tommy Reese. I think Steve Sarkisian's a little bit better, I guess, more proven. So I don't know. It could be one of those things where Quinn Ewers just says, "Oh, yep, let me just have my legacy game in the biggest game of my entire life," and he just goes and balls out. But I'm going to take Bama to win, and I'm going to take Bama to cover the 7.5.
Now I'm in agreement with you here. I'm taking Bama to win, Bama to cover 7.5. I think they win by around 11, and that's volatile depending on a backdoor cover with Texas. But I really do think this could be an all-time classic. I really do. I think it could be one of those iconic regular season out of conference games that we look on all seasons like, wow, these are two elite teams toe to toe. Texas could lose and not even cover, and I could still feel really darn good about them. And lastly, I want to talk about Quinn Ewers. He could make himself a lot of money today. It doesn't matter what he does the rest of the year. He balls out against Bama like he did in that first quarter last year. He's going to be wealthy, very wealthy in the NFL draft coming with this April. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think, obviously, for Texas, you're not the better team, so you got to out-coach them and out-scheme them. And you can do that, obviously, with Sark. That's the advantage of having an elite offensive mind as your head coach. But, yeah, Alabama's too physical. Brian Tenney Stadium's going to be rocking. I think they're going to lean on Texas. And I think Texas is going to learn a lot from this game. And Bama will be maybe seeing Texas again, later on the line. I think no matter what happens in this game, Texas can still accomplish all their goals, make the playoffs. Bama, same thing if they're on the table in the SEC. But